The wait is over.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the studios in the wrestling capital of the South, it's another terrific episode of The BENGEBUSTER Show. Please welcome your host, Tony Binge.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The BENGEBUSTER Show. What a tremendous show we have in store for you this week. As I had been telling people, everybody's been asking, when are you going to have a live guest on the show? And man, tonight I am knocking it out of the park with this guest. I absolutely cannot wait to get this story. I've known this guy for, golly, probably longer than I care to remember because it's been forever. But man, it's going to be an exciting show. You fans are going to absolutely love it. And we are going to be telling some great stories and having some laughs and maybe some tears in between, but it's going to be great. So before I get started, I want to bring in my co-host, co-conspirator, co-wingman, you name it, he is there. I am talking about none other than Chris Plano. Chris, what is going on?
Oh my gosh, terrific, Tony. I am fired up about tonight's program. I cannot wait. We're going to talk a little rock, a little wrestling, maybe a whole lot of wrestling. And when you told me Corey Edsel was on the show tonight, you know I wasn't going to miss this for the world. Corey, welcome. We're glad you're here. Tony, thank you for having me. We're ready to roll tonight.
We are ready to go. And like Chris says, welcome to the show, Corey Edsel. Corey, what is going on, my friend?
Wow. Well, you said you had to bring back live guests. I guess, beats dead guests. So that's pretty cool. Thanks for having me. I could have been a dead guest, with my history. We'll get into that a little bit later. But thank you. Thank you, both of you, for having me. I appreciate it.
Man, we're glad to have you on the show. And, man, each week, Chris and I, we try to tell some great old stories featuring Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. And, what a better way to bring in Mid-Atlantic than one of the Mid-Atlantic area's biggest independent stars. I mean, man, back in the day, if you went online and you just Googled your name, man, it pulled up everywhere. I mean, you were like a CWF Mid-Atlantic champion. You had that belt. You also was Johnny Weaver Cup winner at one time.
The first one, the inaugural invitational.
Oh, very nice.
Pretty cool.
Very nice. Yeah. You can't beat that. So, and of course, as we do the podcast, we'll get more into that. But before we get into
I got a story there.
Oh, I can't wait for that. Before we get into Corey's story, Chris, the latest rumors we're hearing, man. You and I are big Motley Crue fans, and over the weekend, Vince Neil of Motley Crue done a solo tour in Iowa, and it wasn't that great from what I hear.
Tony, yes. I actually, to be honest with you, I didn't realize Vince Neil was doing solo dates this early. I actually heard he was a last-minute fill-in to Skid Row for one of the performances that he did at a festival this weekend. Vince obviously played the Motley Crue hits. He played some of his solo hits. I think it was 13 or 14 song set in all. But the biggest thing was the fan reaction just to Vince Neil. Obviously, we know the 2021 stadium tour is postponed now to next summer, 2022. So Vince is picking up some solo bookings here, but there was a little bit left to be desired, I heard, on the vocal end of some things, and the band behind him, and whether that's Vince's fault, band's fault, production fault, whatever it may be. Yeah, we need to tighten up some things here. And I actually heard a couple of videos, and wow, some parts were good and some parts were not so good. And hopefully this isn't a precursor of what's to come.
Yeah, I hope not. Seeing as how I've got like fifth row seats to the show, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully. And then the next rumor that we've heard, or there's speculation that WWE might be preparing for a sale. Let's hope that's not the case, but it seems like Vince is trimming the fat, so to speak.
I mean, Tony, and I know Corey could probably weigh in a little more on this question than I can, but as far as a potential sale of WWE, I'm not really tuned in on, but I could tell you something I am tuned in on. There is definitely a cut in talent over the last, I would say, week within the World Wrestling Entertainment organization. And today, some big names are let go. And I think there were some surprises. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I'll take your opinion on this. I don't know if anyone's job is safe at this point after the names that I saw come across the board today. And, I'm thinking now, is the door half open from some other organizations out there like All Elite Wrestling, like TNA Wrestling? And what could happen, because I think this is going to get crazy here throughout this summer into the fall. And I think the landscape of the national professional wrestling scene, both here in the United States and across the globe, is going to look a whole lot different, I think, between now and the end of this year.
I agree. Corey, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, obviously you got some good talent that got cut today. I think Braun's money, maybe not $1 million a year money, but he's definitely money. I think Tommy End, Aleister Black's money, so somebody will pick him up. Buddy Murphy's money if you put him in the right spot, but a Ruby Riott too. Santana Garrett. I've never really watched her work. I've been around her, but I've never really watched her work. But there's only so much money to go around.
Right.
Only Tony Khan's only going to spend so much money. Impact only has so much. I don't know. I mean, New Japan is a possibility, but do they want to go to New Japan? It may, but the whole thing with Vince is I always thought that he was never going to pass the company down. It's always been a thing that the company will die with Vince, period. He would not give it to Steph. He would not give it to Shane. He wouldn't give it to Triple H. It seemed like they were going in that direction. And all of a sudden, here comes the NBC deal. I think the catalyst was, ESPN buying the footage last year during COVID. They bought the footage. It did well. ABC's like, hey, you guys want to make would you sell it to us? We're like, well, not, no. And then here comes NBC, here comes Disney. You can't turn them all down. You're eventually going to take one. Mm-hmm. Vince isn't getting younger, so maybe he's ready to retire. He's a workaholic, man. He don't want to do it. I mean, he's a workaholic. He'll find something to do, obviously, but I just feel bad. I mean, I'm sure Triple H will have a job. I'm sure Stephanie will have a job, and Shane and all those guys, but I don't know if it'll be the same. So the landscape's going to change, but I don't think for the better.
No,
AEW maybe,
Yeah,
but that's about it.
Well, I think one of the things that caught my eye as far as realizing something's about to change was I saw where Triple H had sold a lot of his shares in the company.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that's weird. Why would somebody, the executive, want to start selling off shares?
An executive vice president.
Yeah. And then,
does he need money? No, he doesn't need money. He's fine, right?
Right. And then after that, I see the WWE Network is going now to NBC, and of course, all the stuff that I paid for is now no longer on there, which is the old classic NWA and territory stuff. That's gone now. So right now, I am still a subscriber, but I'm probably going to get rid of it because there's nothing on there that I really care to see. Because a few months back, I went to WrestleMania, but it just wasn't the pomp and circumstance of WrestleMania's past, and I know it has a lot to do with COVID. I get that, but just the wrestling scene is just like, to me, used to when you go to a big live wrestling event, you had the low carders and the mid carders, but then you had them superstars. When I went to WrestleMania, it's like everybody was on the same level, it seemed like,
Yep. And that was on purpose. There are no more marquee wrestlers. John Cena's the last one.
Right. And that, to me, that just makes it hard for me to be invested, because they're all the same,
Tony, if I could say, what's happening in professional wrestling now at a national and worldwide level is unprecedented. For the talent, they have options at this point. They have more options today than they ever have. And you would never think we'd be talking about this post-COVID-19 pandemic at all. I mean, okay, I get cut by WWE. There's AEW, there's TNA, there's New Japan Pro Wrestling. You're talking promotions that have national exposure, where in the past you got cut by WWE, and Corey could probably agree with me, you're going to the independents pretty much.
Which is not a bad thing now, because there's so much money on the independents now. Right. It's insane.
Right. The question is, how long can you give it going? But I think these guys have more options now than ever. And whether WWE is recognizing this or not, or what's happening, there's definitely a con storyline going on behind the scenes between AEW and WWE, between the two con last names, that's silently, taking a whole story of itself. But there's a lot going on. And I think the landscape here in the next 6 months is going to look drastic by the time we get through the end of this year. I really do. And I think it's going to be a wild roller coaster ride ahead of us.
Yeah, I totally agree. 100%. Now, moving on to our main topic, which is Corey Edsel's story.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, we're before we went on air.
I could talk about that other stuff for hours. You crazy?
Oh, yeah, I could too, for sure. But one of the cool things that I want to say is I remember the first time that Corey and I met. Kurt Solo, a good friend of mine that I've known since middle school, was running a little territory in my old hometown of Thomasville, North Carolina, a town that Chris used to sell out every month. And he had that little flea market gimmick deal going on in there, and man, he had he had all kind of he started out with his own little wrestlers that he trained himself in his backyard on a mattress. Shoot, that's the truth. But and he rented my and of course a lot of people Corey, you may not know this, and Chris, I know you do, but I had a training center in Lexington, North Carolina, and so he would rent out my training center for a couple hours or whatever, bring his guys in, and they would train, and I'll never forget, he had this the one guy, Corey, you may remember this guy, but I'm trying to remember his name, but the kid was redheaded, and he had
Johnny Suicide.
Yes, Johnny Suicide. And
I knew that's what you were going for.
I'll never forget. He walked into my training. He walked into my training center, and he was like a kid that just either got laid for the first time or just got an Xbox for the first time. I don't know which one, but he's like, "Oh, this is so cool. I've never been in a real ring before, but I've been training for a year." I'm like, "Oh, okay, have fun."
Tony left.
Give me your $50 before you get in my ring. Give me $50. But that's kind of how they got their start. And but then Kurt calls me up and he goes, "Hey, I got a ring." Because by this time I was going through a bad divorce, and I blamed wrestling on my divorce when I really should have just blamed myself and my nature, because I was a big nature back there. I was married, but my wife wasn't, kind of thing, And but I blame wrestling because wrestling was my connection to the females that I wasn't supposed to be with, but I was, and so I blame wrestling for it. So I took a year off. I didn't wrestle. I still had all my gear, and I sold my ring to Bruiser Graham, and I was done. And sat home for a year and self-pity, and then I realized, you know what? I don't need to beat myself up or wear the scarlet letter because I screwed up my marriage. I just need to go on about my day. And Kurt calls me up and says, "Hey, Tony, I got this building in Thomasville." He goes, "I need your mind because you've got a great mind for wrestling. You got a great mind for angles. I got a few guys that I've trained myself, but I got this crew coming in from CWF." and they're really good. But I want you to be like my behind the scenes. You know, I guess I was kind of like his Patterson kind of thing.
His producer.
Number one producer. Because he was like me. He was burnt out on running the show, but he wanted to own it. But he wanted me to help, put the matches together and come up with angles. And so what he would do, he would make gear, and while he was making gear, I was writing out scripts and matches, and then let's do that, but no, let's don't do that. And matter of fact, one time in one of our little production meetings, I came up with the gimmick Charlie Brown, and nobody even heard Charlie Brown in 20 years, and then it got over. But But that is where I first met Corey, and I walked in, and Corey and I had talked about this offline. But in the wrestling business, you run into a lot of people, and you're like, "Hey, brother, how you doing?" You never really talk to them again, or you're on the same show, but you never speak to them. But as soon as Corey and I first met, we were like instantaneously friends. We were like, talking, and I thought Corey was way older than he was. And
I think I'm 50.
Yeah, when I thought I at the time I think I was like 30, and I thought Corey was like 28 or 29, and then Corey was like 19 then or 18?
No, I would have been 16.
16, yeah. And I was like, wait a minute, you're how old?
But I got to cut you off. That's not the first time we met.
Oh, it's not.
The first time we met, you ran a show in High Point at the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay.
And you brought in Boogie.
Yep.
And you brought in a ton of his graduates, right?
Yes.
All these it was like 20 matches on the card, I think, right?
Yep.
So you had Kamikaze Kid on it, you had Cyrus on it, Chris Collins, Lee Valiant. You probably remember half of these guys being on the show. Foxy Roxy was your referee. Like, you had all this talent on your show, and they were just starting, right?
Uh-huh.
And they were going out there doing every damn thing they could do and got no reaction. You guys were last, obviously, because it was like you and Boogie. I think it was a tag match. I don't remember. But me and Curtis wrestled before intermission.
Okay.
And me and Curtis went out for 5 minutes. This was December 2001, December 15, 2001. I might be a little picky on the date.
Yep. That sounds about right.
That sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
But me and Curtis went out for 5 minutes, and we got over huge. And the rest of the show was fine.
Yeah.
But for the first half, like the first 7 matches, nothing. And they were doing dives to the floor. They were like crash landing on the floor, like all that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And me and Curtis just went, I was like, I'm just gonna be Terry Funk. Is that okay? And Curtis is like, I don't give a shit. Do what you want.
Right.
We'll just call it out there. So we went out for 5 minutes, got over. And when we came to the locker room, you're like, you know how to work? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, you're the only one.
Yeah.
and that was it. Like,
I forgot about that.
We ran into each other, doing the Thomasville flea market shows.
Yep.
And of course, we bonded there more.
Uh-huh.
But that was kind of the first thing you said to me, like, okay, now I know why Curtis wanted to work with you. That makes sense, because I think you guys did a tag match too, or something like that. So he worked twice.
Yeah, I think on that night it was me and it was me and my cousin Mark. No, it was me and Curtis against Mark and Boogie. That's what it was.
That's it.
Yep. That's what it was. And Mark done all kind of crazy stuff. He always did, but Smart Mark Michaels, remember him?
Yep, I do. I worked him.
Yeah, that's him.
It wasn't a match for the Smart Marks.
No, but yeah, it was. That's right. We did. I forgot about that. But then when Curtis started running that flea market, we bonded there, and we had some really good times in that building, and it was just a fun time, and.
TNT is still one of my favorite tag teams. By the way.
Yeah,
like it's still and the match you guys had on the fly. Like, I don't know who was late. I don't know if it was you or Trent, but literally you guys are going out there in sweatpants and having a 20-minute match. Like, that was the most hilarious thing in the world because it was so good.
It was actually Trent was late. He showed up, and when he got there, he's like, "Dude, I just got here." I'm like, "Well, I'll just put my because at the time I had them. I used to wear those Zubaz snake skins,
that's it.
And I put them on, and we went out there and had a match. I don't remember who we worked that night, but I remember
it was each other. you had a singles match against each other because you'd split.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, he showed up.
I remember all this.
Yeah,
stuff
that's so crazy because I forgot all about that we split. Yeah, what happened was he got fired because he didn't make a couple of the shows, and Kurt stripped us of the belts, and then I was babyface, and he came in as a heel. That's what happened. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And what was so cool was that tag team. Like Curtis told me, he goes, Tony, I got this guy. His name's Tony too, but he goes by Trent. And I'm thinking about putting you guys together as TNT, and I'm like, okay. And at the time, I was still kind of a mark of the Hollywood Blondes, and I wanted to use the Hollywood Blondes music. And Curtis like, no, you guys are going to use TNT. It'll be over. I'm like, this shit sucks. I want to do Hollywood Blondes, you know. And then we started going out there and doing like ripping off Freebird. We were doing like the Freebird strut, and was moonwalking and tripping over each other and just making it funny. And lo and behold, we were heels, but we were over, and we didn't even know it until the night that we worked UNOD. And then Randy Hedrick, God bless his soul, looks over at me and he goes, "Brother, you're a baby face. You guys can't heel no more." And then the next week we come out and we wasn't working UNOD, and the fans were booing us, and Randy says to me, he goes, "Damn, brother, I don't know who's more confused, me or the fans." but Randy was great, man. I miss him so much. He was so funny. The voice of ACW.
Man, he was the voice of everything. Let's just be honest.
He
was the voice of the Carolina Independence, man. Just period. Dude, I don't remember. I probably handful of shows around here that he wasn't doing.
Right.
You know, at that period of time. So,
yeah, he was everywhere.
He just loved it. Like it was like music was his first passion, and then wrestling. You know, for some reason, none of us can explain it, but we all have that passion for it, and we do it, and it's crazy. But man, he spent so much money on those pictures. Like he would get them developed back then. It's like, man, these kids today don't know. They call themselves photographers. They don't print shit. They just print digital. You know, that's it.
Yeah,
that's the end of it.
He was one going to Kmart or Walmart, getting them developed, and then send them out to people and put them in the mailbox. And yeah, it was crazy. I'll never forget one of the best comments I heard of him. Was I was in the back one night. You may have been part of this conversation, but Scotty Matthews, Malachi, was over there, and Randy was in the ring doing a promo with Kurt Solo and some guys, and he says to me, he says, "Man, I wish Randy was better looking because he'd get a job in WCW because he's got a great voice."
Yep.
And he was like, his voice don't match his looks. He always said that, and I'm like, yeah.
Not.
I'm like, yeah. Now, Chris, whenever you were running NDW, did Randy Hedrick ever come in and ring announce for you at all?
He did, I believe, a couple of times. It very wasn't often. Randy was around, but hey, he was a great guy for the business. I mean, he was there for everyone, whether you were a promoter, manager, worker, referee, fan. I mean, there was never a bad thing to say. He was there for everyone, I think, and he just loved the local professional wrestling scene. And you know, he was in an interesting time. I mean, just, you know, wrestling on a national level was crazy. And even, you know, up to the days, you know, of his unfortunate death, he was always there. He was always there. I mean, in some way, shape, or form. And great guy, had some great conversations with him, and had a lot of knowledge for the business. He really did. And the music industry. As well.
Huge.
You know, we would always try to pop Randy. We would always try to pop Randolph. If you got that, oh yeah.
You know, did some. And you know, I just think, you know, when I think of him, you know, he just always wanted just to be a part of what was happening and what was going on, and whether he was directly involved, indirectly involved, partially involved, however you want to word it, he just wanted to be a part of it because he knew it was something great that was happening. And he was passionate about this area as well. I think that was really near and dear to him, to his heart.
Well, you know, he saved my life one night. Shoot, for real.
Oh.
We were in Thomasville at the flea market, and at the time, we brought in Jimmy Valiant, and we were playing it up that, you know, I just graduated from Jimmy Valiant's wrestling camp a few years prior, and that we were going to bring in Jimmy Valiant and give him the Lifetime Achievement Award of NDW. And I was presenting
in EW.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, in
New
EW.
Empire
See, I'm
Wrestling.
getting the ends confused.
You're trying to stooge Plano off.
Sorry,
Stop that.
Plano. But in EW, and we brought him in, and I turned on him. I give him the award, and while he's got the award, I turn around and go in my tights, I pull out the loaded glove, boom, knock him out, right? And in that little flea market, Chris, really there shouldn't have probably been maybe 50 people in that little building.
Oh, if that, yeah.
And there was like 150. I mean, there was nowhere to sit. Everybody was standing, but there was
Boogie Nights. That was the name of the show.
Boogie Nights, yes. But right there in the by the door, I put I knocked Boogie out. I put the boots to him, and Brian from Fair Warning and Rob McBride come out to make the save, and I jump out of the ring. And as I jump out of the ring, Randy, like I was going to go around the ring towards the dressing room, and Randy grabs me and pulls me over to his over by him, and I'm like, Randy, what are you doing? And he goes, brother, the door. He's got a knife. Don't walk that way. And I'm like, what? And I look over there, and the guy looks at me. Sorry, the guy looks at me and says, "I'll kill you, you son of a bitch." And I was like, whoa, that's crazy.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Tony, you had some heat, Tony, if I may ask.
yeah.
And I know we talked about Jimmy the Boogie Woogie Man Valiant. Was that the night? Was that your best shot on that you took it? You were going to lay him out for the rest of his career? Was that it?
That's what I said. Of all, I said this.
That was it.
I said the same thing every night I wrestled him. Tonight, I'm gonna retire this guy tonight. And
then he paid him at the end of the night.
And then
I
paid him, and said, and I paid him, and then he says to me, "Hey brother, we're gonna get eggs in the morning at that place in Thomasville, and we go get breakfast the next morning before he went off to Boogie's camp."
But you paid for it,
and I paid for it. Oh, I've got something here I want to show you guys. As we're talking about Jimmy Van, I know the fans at home can't see this, but I want Chris and them to see this because this is pretty cool stuff. So I got this a couple weeks ago, but Boogie was on High Spots, and I got one of the Charlie Brown hoods.
Nice. That's awesome.
And of course, he autographed one side, says Charlie Brown.
Yep.
And then the other side
Very nice.
is Jimmy Valiant.
Well, I thought that was his friend from out of town. Why is he signing?
Well, I think he decided to sign it because he said he was cool. He met him in jail.
Right. He's cool with him. He's signing his checks too, right?
Yeah. And then they sent me this cool thing. Nice promo picture of him holding the mask.
Look
and
at
signing
that.
it.
I knew that's what it was going to
man.
be. That's awesome.
Really cool stuff. And but they were, if anybody is a boogie mark, it's me. I've always been a boogie mark since I was 10 years old. And they were running. They had him on the High Spots virtual gimmick thing there, and he had the mask, and I said I'm going to outbid everybody. I don't care. I'm gonna buy this hood. So I'm bidding and Boogie's live, and they're going, "Oh, Tony Benj just bid," and Boogie's like, "Brother!" He pointed to the camera. He knew, he knew right away who I was, and I thought that was really cool. And but the thing I really wanted, but it was too far reach for me. But he had the red boots that he wore with Charlie Brown. But the starting bid on that was minimum $2,500, so I was about $2,300 short on on getting those. So, but from what I hear, I think they went back to Boogie's camp. So
But Tony, if I could say, wow, and I don't know if you sent it to Corey or not earlier today. I don't know, but man, that TikTok video you sent me earlier today with Boogie and from May '86.
Oh yeah,
with the Raging Bull manufacturer. I mean, Boogie.
Yes.
Was fired up. He talking about they're taking this whole thing through the Great American Bash '86 with Pistol Pez Watley and Paul Jones, and I got Manny Fernandez, the Bull by my side, the B&B Corporation. I mean, dude, that was hot, dude. That was like main event material right there. I mean, Boogie was just so fired up, it didn't even matter, man. I mean, the money was just flowing in, and when he said, and I love that interview. But Boogie said, we're taking this to every city on the Bash. I mean, that just brings, like goosebumps. I mean, that's like crazy stuff.
And I know, Chris, you and I have talked about this on the podcast before, but I want to incorporate Corey on this one. That right there is one of the lost arts in professional wrestling today. Everybody thinks that they can go on Facebook, post a picture of a card, and everybody's going to come.
Right.
Nobody knows how to draw people in off of a promo. They try to draw people in off of a poster, and you can't do that. I mean, it helps, but back in the 80s, Jimmy Valiant, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, and Rockland Express, those guys didn't have to do nothing. They could talk you into a building.
Yeah.
You know, I used to watch that old stuff, and I'm like, oh God, I got to go buy a ticket. Oh shit, wait a minute, that was 1985. You know, because even now I'm still want to go buy a ticket and watch it.
Well, there's a lost art to the matches too, because the matches were promos.
Yeah.
I don't think guys understand that
Right.
their 3-4 minute match wasn't a match. It was a promo. Basically they were doing a music video. So you see what you were paying to see. You know, when you saw the Rock and Roll and the Andersons, you knew, oh man, they're going to get all their shit in.
Yeah.
Right.
They boom, boom, double drop kick. They're going to get all that double team, boom, boom, boom. That's a promo. Guys do not know how to work matches like that.
No,
period. They have too much pride, and they think I've got to get my shit in. And it's not about getting your shit in; it's about making money.
Right.
I don't know. Did you see that little silly promo I put up last week for the match with Bobby Yella by chance, Tony?
No, I missed it. I'll go back and check it out.
It wasn't nothing to it. It was just me being a smart ass, honestly. Like, he did a little promo, and we set the match in Burlington, because that was the first time I wrestled in Burlington in 5 years.
Oh, nice.
So I thought it would be pretty cool. I didn't think it would be special. I just thought it was going to be my first match there in 5 years. It was special to me. But I cut that promo, man, and I'm getting messages from everybody like that. That's what brought Stutzy back. I was like, Stutzy, you want to do this? He's like, yeah, let's do it, man. Like, it took him 5 seconds to agree to it, and Stutzy hadn't wanted to do anything in years.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what got him in it. You know, just that silly little promo I cut in the car. But I think because it's like Stutzy said, like, it was authentic. Like, that was my real voice. I didn't get silly. It was a little silly, but I didn't get really like overly dramatic. Bobby, like, I didn't do that. I was just like, dude, you calling me out in your promo voice. I mean, kind of broke kayfabe just a little bit,
right?
But it's 2021. Everyone does it except for Tony Bench. But like, just that little silly thing. And man, I was getting messages from workers like, hey, I'm going to go pay to watch that. Like, dude, it's just going to be a short thing. You don't have to pay to. No. We're going to pay to watch it. And dude, DW and Lee Valiant were the main event. Nice. Damian Wayne and Lee Valiant were the main event, but people wanted to come see me wrestle. Like, that was pretty cool. I feel like I talked them into the building without doing anything. So I don't know. Yeah. But that's exactly your point.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. That it's such a lost art today. Nobody does that. Or they'll, like you said, they'll get on Facebook and cut this 10-minute promo and go all over the place, and they lose you because it's all you need 2 minutes or less.
Keep it under 2, brother.
Get them in the building, and then when you get them in the building, then you can talk more. But get them in the building first. Kind of one of the things Boogie always taught me. He says, "Don't give them everything now. Give it to them later. Make them come out, make them want more." And that right there is like one of the things that drives me nuts. A lot of times I get on Facebook and I laugh. Or now I saw something on Facebook today, and I'm not going to say no names, but I've never been a really big guy until now. I'm 30, in my 40s now. I'm a little overweight, but growing up in the wrestling business when I first started, man, I was tiny. I'll be the first to tell you, I probably shouldn't have been in the ring a lot of times because the referee was bigger than me, but I worked hard. I did everything I could do, but everything I did, I tried to make it as believable as possible. But I saw a video on Facebook today of this guy that's about 150 pounds, and he was hulking up like Hogan and no selling shots. And I'm like, oh, if you did that,
sure I saw it too. I'm
like, if you did that to me, you'd have a bloody nose because the only person can get away with that is Hulk Hogan. If you're 150 pounds and you're getting pounded by a 190 or 210 pound man, and all of a sudden you're going to no sell, it
wasn't just he didn't even register it.
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He didn't even register what he was doing. Right. That's okay. A lot of times you got bigger, like me.
Yeah.
I won't necessarily sell everything, but register it.
Right. Register.
This guy, I know. I saw the video. I know
you saw the video. Yeah. And you know, and a lot of people think this guy is like the best thing since sliced bread, but
yeah,
I'm not being mean here. This is my podcast. I can say what I want, but the guy's never really impressed me. I don't know why. Maybe it's because the first time I saw him, he was wearing Halloween plastic zip up wrestling boots. Maybe.
Oh wow, I remember those.
maybe that's what. And if any of you guys at home want to be a wrestler and you want to dress like that guy, you can get them on. You can get those same boots on eBay for $20. But now they're going to fall apart and they're going to break your ankles and you're going to look like you're not going to look like a wrestler. You're going to look like a cosplay. But anyway, I'm getting off subject here. But something like that drives me nuts. And I look back at guys like us three that have spent 20 plus years trying to do this the best of our ability, and you got somebody that's coming in like that crapping on it. It just pisses me off.
Well, what drives me nuts is you have these guys who are going out there, they're putting themselves over really huge and whatever. I never really did that. And then they're running wrestling schools.
Right.
It's like, who are you to run a wrestling school? I'll be honest with you. My first 8 years, I had no idea what I was doing. I just pretended.
Me too.
Like I literally did whatever I did on TV, whatever I saw on TV, or somebody, you know, like Jerry Blackwell or somebody like that, or One Man Gang, Bam Bam Bigelow, those guys. I was like, okay, maybe I'll do that. But for some reason, I wanted to be Daniel Bryan. I wanted to be like a 500-pound Daniel Bryan. That's fine. But it's like the light bulb went off my 8th year listening to Al Snow. And Al Snow explained, he literally took wrestling, he broke it down to its fundamentals. And it's like, it blew my mind how stupid I was. And I'm going to say stupid because I can't say dumb. It's like, wow, what do you mean? The object of the match is to try to win, try not to lose. Wait a minute, what? That's what we're doing? And it's like everything builds on that. But nobody's trying to win matches. Nobody's even going for pins or submissions. They're just hitting their shit and going to the next thing, or no selling it, going to the next thing. And I know that's what they're seeing. Mm-hmm. So I feel like the guys who are up top, maybe they don't know what they're doing.
Right. They're just getting paid because of their looks.
Yeah. But that's where the producers should step in and be like, guys, look, like this isn't. But I don't know much about how that works. I've never really been produced. I've been asked to do things, but I don't really know what entails that. They just kind of told me go in there and do it. You know, like literally one time when I had my tryout at FCW being the precursor to NXT, Oksana was doing this horrible promo with like 10 dudes in the ring on a live show there at Steve Kern's building. And Dusty came out and Dusty looked at me and said, hey, big man, go on out there and interrupt that promo, the little promo you did in class earlier today, okay? Just go do that thing and just tell them to end it. It's horrible. So I went out, there's a dog attacking me.
No.
So I went out and did the thing, and they all looked at me like, who told you to do that? I was like, guys, what the hell? You think I'm just going to go through the curtain and cut a promo because I'm an asshole or something? Like,
right.
Dusty told me to do it. But then I found out it was a rib.
Great, Dusty.
He wanted to see if I'd actually do it.
And you did it.
And I did it.
You said, hey,
I got hired.
You're my boss. I'm listening to what you tell me.
Because I went out there and did it. What's Dusty Rhodes, man? If Dusty Rhodes told me to go jump off a cliff, I was like, I'm sure there's a good reason for it.
Right. Uh-huh.
I'll go do it. Sure. Okay. Sorry to go.
No, that's great.
I thought that was a funny story.
No, I love that because, stories like that Dusty was such a ribber, and a lot of people didn't know that. But Dusty would do that, kind of like you say, try you out to see, okay, if I tell you to go out there I remember hearing an interview one time. I don't remember who it was, but they said if the promoter asked you like how bad do you want to be in this business? Mm-hmm. Oh, I want to be real bad. So me as the promoter, if I tell you I want you to go out there and wear a dress, would you do that to get over? Yeah, because you're my boss. I do it. But then the other guy's like, I'm not doing that. Well, guess what? Mm-hmm. You ain't got a job here either because I want somebody working for me that's going to do what I ask. Yeah. But that's a great story right there. Now, one of the other things that I want to touch base on is we talked about that, and you just kind of touched on the FCW thing. Tell us about your experience working FCW.
So that way, so I'll tell you the whole story. I had actually already quit the business. I quit in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd hurt my back. I'd hurt my back several times. It's just because I was so big. And I hurt my back, and they announced that they're having this camp at OVW. I was like, OVW, I've never got to work there. So I paid the money. Myself, Marcellus King, Lewis Moore, and a cat. I can't remember Elliot's work name, but we all went together. We all drove up there. And I was like, dude, I just want to work in Davis Arena. I don't give a shit about any of this other stuff. You know, it was like a WWE tryout. I didn't care about any of that because I'm like, but I've always known at right place, right time, I might have a chance. Right. I did always know that, but I never tried. Like I never really tried to get picked up or be seen or anything like that. There's another dog coming after me. Hi. First on the podcast, get attacked by dogs.
Hey, there it is.
But
it's usually rats for me. No,
well, yeah, I know that got you in a lot of trouble.
Kayfabe that, Chris, right?
Yeah, no, good.
Oh, I know some stories about you, Chris.
Oh,
that's another one down the line. But what happened was
tonight. Wait, someone else's attention. We got some other antennas that popped up over here.
Oh,
Tony.
So, I didn't mean to get you any heat. No.
Tony, you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah.
If you could see Chris's face right now, it would make the whole thing. Man, this would be it wouldn't be my picture, man. Chris.
Look at that. You talk about the cat that ate the canary, right there it is.
Oh no, you're gonna.
No,
sorry.
I'm playing.
This was years ago. If it's any consolation,
I'm just playing.
Decades ago.
Yeah, decades ago. It was last week, but it's fine. It's
wait. Someone just chanted last weekend, maybe.
Oh, last weekend. Oh, look out.
I told her Tony's looking for a wave or something.
Yeah.
The one that does the lines, right?
Yeah. No, we're teasing. We're having a good time.
We're teasing over here.
But so FCW. So you
so
get in there.
So anyway, we're at OVW first.
OVW.
You know, OVW used to be developmental, so they would do favors for Danny Davis to try to help him make money. So John Laurinaitis would come do these camps randomly, and he would show up on Sunday. So on the Saturday, Cornette's there. Cornette didn't like me. Cornette had seen me work before and really liked me, but for some reason he just didn't like me. But everybody else did. Danny Davis, Nick Dinsmore, who was Eugene.
Yep.
Mike Mondo, they liked me a lot. So the next day, I had done a 6-man tag. I mean, I didn't do anything. I just took a couple bumps, whatever. Got some heat on guys, whatever. But Ken Wayne was there. Duh, I got to mention that Ken Wayne and Danny Davis, the Nightmares, watched me work.
Right.
So did that. Then the next day, it's like triple the amount of people. I guess because OVW had a house show the night before. So they come. So everybody showed the next day because they want to get in front of John Laurinaitis. Thankfully, Cornette was not there because he doesn't like to be in the same building as John Laurinaitis because he hates him. So Danny Davis was kind of left to put the matches together. And he's like, man, we got to do that same thing. Let him do what he did, because everybody else was getting cut down. Like, the Bollywood boys, they're in WWE now. They were there. Gerb Sarah was there. There was a lot of guys who ended up getting picked up. They were there, but they didn't get picked up at the time. So he was very adamant, like he gets his time. Like he doesn't get cut. Everybody else pretty much got cut. So like he gets the same thing. We're going to do the same spots, whatever. So we did the exact same thing. And then they started pulling people for promos. I'm like, I'm not really good at promos. I'm still 9 years in, but I'm not really good at them. So he's like, just give us a minute on something. Boom, boom, boom. Cut the minute. I did it. I actually did a Jimmy Valiant promo, kind of like a Jimmy Valiant, Jerry Blackwell thing. And it worked. And Laurinaitis comes up to me. Laryngitis, yeah. Johnny Laryngitis comes up to me after. He says, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Greensboro, North Carolina. That's where I lived at the time. And he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, we'll be coming through there. This was December. He said, we'll be coming through in February. We'll take a look at you. I was like, okay, cool. That's great. pick up some extra bucks, whatever. I didn't think much about it.
Uh-huh.
So he comes and has somebody come find me again. And I come down, he's like, I changed my mind. He's like, I really want you to come to the show tomorrow night. They were running the KFC Yum Center. It's like the first show they had there in Louisville in that building.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I really want you there tomorrow night. I was like, oh, sir, I've got, these guys with me. I got Marcellus, Lewis, those guys. He's like, all right. Well, all right. We'll just plan for Greensboro. He's like, let me get your number. So he got my number. 5 minutes later, I get this call from Johnny Laurinaitis. He's like, yeah, I changed my mind again. He's like, look, we're gonna get you a car. Send the guys back in your car tonight. Just send them back. They can drive your car back. We'll get you a car. We'll get you a room. We want you at Raw. Like, I don't have a suit or anything. And I weighed 500 pounds at the time, guys. I don't know if you know how hard it is to find a suit for a 500-pound guy on like last minute notice, but it sucked. I don't even think I think he didn't get a shirt and pants or whatever. I don't think they really cared. So go the next day, sit around, do a lot of nothing. Luckily, Nick Dinsmore showed up. So Nick Dinsmore was like telling me what to do. He's like, make sure you're out there in front of him. Get your gear on, just stand there. He's like, if you just got to stand there all night, just stand there. So I was standing there. They come out. Fit Finley comes out. And Darren Young and all those guys were out there. And Seth Rollins, that'd been his first time at Raw. He'd been signed, but they brought him up to look at him. Mm-hmm. So they did like a little tag or whatever before the show. And then they got me in there, and they got me in with a guy from Tennessee. Man, I wish I could remember his name because he was a good worker. I don't remember what his name is, but good little worker. Took a little 5-minute match. It wasn't too bad. I only took like 2 bumps because I knew it was like, I'm going to take 2 bumps. But somewhere along the line, it got around that I could do a drop kick. And me being me from North Carolina, I was working heel. I didn't do a drop kick. I'm like, I'm not doing a damn drop kick. I'm heel. It doesn't make any sense. So I didn't do it in that match. They had me work Darren Young. Horrible match. Not his. I mean, we just didn't click. We didn't know each other from
right.
And like the way I call stuff and the way he calls stuff is totally different. And like it just wasn't a great match. But they, whatever, they liked what they saw. So I go to the back and Brawler's like, hey, why you do the drop kick? I was like, because I'm heel. And he just looked at me and he did this. He claps. Goes, whatever. He says, go get something to eat, He comes and gets me and pulls me into the promo room in front of the Miz, who did not appreciate that because he's sitting there waiting to do his promo, for the camera. And he seemed pretty upset about it. But they had me cut another promo. I pretty much did the same thing. Went well. They flew me home the next morning. I get a call. Hey, we want to send you down to Tampa, let you check it out, see what you do. But I had a job at the time. Produce manager, very important, prominent job. Gotta
look up those heads of lettuce.
Yeah, you gotta make sure, man. You gotta make sure they're cut and everything.
That's
There's
right.
a lot of work in being produce manager.
Mm-hmm.
I was assistant produce manager. I say produce manager, assistant produce manager. I like to make it sound a lot more important than it was. I wasn't important at all. I was replaced pretty quickly. So I was like, I only got really, they want to take you for a week, but I could only go for 3 days. So I went for 3 days down to Tampa, flew me down, whatever. Jason Jordan was brought in that day. I got to work a lot with, he's in New Japan now. He's Samu's son. I can't remember what he goes by. Anyway, great worker. So I worked with him a lot and just I just want to see if I can wrestle. Joey Mercury just want to see if I could do anything. And then Norman Smiley would pull me aside, whatever. So it was really easy. Like it wasn't like now, they have the tryout camps where you go and they run you through and all that stuff. They didn't do that with me. I just kind of went, felt my way around, went to the show that night. That's where, Dusty had me go out and do that. Then the Friday I had a match with Bo Dallas and a very good match. Went really well. I did do the drop kick. Because I was babyface. I insisted. I was like, I can't do the drop kick unless I'm babyface. From babyface, I'll do it. So we got that in. They called me back, sent me the contract, all that, signed me. So when I went back, it's like it was a totally different atmosphere. like they had talked about how competitive it was, but I didn't see it because I think they sheltered me from it when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got there, it's like I walked in the door, I had heat. The only person that liked me were the Usos, who they were already on TV, but they were just there. The Usos were there. Leaki, who is now known as Roman Reigns, he was always cool with me. A cat named Sam Adonis, who is a big star in Mexico, doing real well here now. I was cool with him. And for some reason, I was cool with Brodus Clay. No idea why. He just liked me, I guess, because I was a big guy. He stood up in front of the whole group. He's like, hey, you assholes got a problem. You take it with me because this guy can work. And I was like, okay, thanks. Appreciate you doing that. And now everybody hates me more. So did that. Somewhere along the line, I broke my ankle training. So like I'm going to expose everything. But in the training rings for the girls, they had double padding. And I was doing rolls. And when I went to do my roll, my foot got stuck, broke my ankle. So I tried to work through it. I use that as an excuse. I could have just went to them like, hey, I broke my ankle, whatever. They might have fired me. They might not have. But so I kind of stuck it out another week or so, and I just didn't like it. So yeah, my tenure in WWE was 2 weeks, two total weeks. And the funny thing was Miro Rusev came in the last week I was there, and he was just kind of waiting around to start. So it was cool seeing him at the very beginning. And then Dr. Tom was there, and everybody thought that I got stiffed in a match or something, and that's why I quit. It had nothing to do with it. It was here. Mm-hmm. It was all this. Like I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't want it, honestly. You say, oh man, I want to make it to the big time. That's why I ask guys now, like, what do you want out of wrestling? Like when they ask me to watch their stuff, it's like, what do you want? Because if you want this, I can tell you this. You want this, it's going to be a lot harsh, whatever. But I didn't want it. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't want it. So I kind of just threw it away and made an excuse. Mm-hmm. To this day, nobody knows why I quit, but I think Triple H was pretty pissed about it. I don't know that for a fact, but I know Ty Bailey wasn't there much long. Ty Bailey was over developmental at the time, and he wasn't there much longer. So I'm pretty sure he wasn't even there when KC reported the next. KC went a year later. It was still FCW, and I don't think he was there. So I don't know. It might have been one of those things. I don't know that for a fact, but yeah, a lot of weird stuff happened, and man, it's just like you weren't ready for it.
Now, whenever you were up there, were you like on the Tough Enough gimmick that they did? Was you
no. So that's a funny story. I think they could have been a thing if I'd have stuck it out because it was coming. Yeah. Bill DeMott came like right after, and they even took the guy Kevin. It actually had already started. Now that I think about it, because I remember Wyndham Bray talking about the best guy on the show is Kevin. What the hell is this? Kevin something? The guy who took a shitty stunner. Okay. So the guy who won it, I remember Bray talking about, dude, if the best guy on the show is that guy, this show sucks. He said that like just right in front of everybody. And now that you mention that just springs to mind. But there was a lot of like weird. It's just weird. It was a weird atmosphere. I don't know. I don't know if it's different now. I don't know how it's done. Yeah. It's like, man, it's like a lot of sitting around stewing in your own shit. And like all these guys, man, you got all these jacked up dudes who think they deserve something. Yeah. I don't know. Like maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe they deserve something. I didn't think I deserved anything. I didn't think I thought I belonged there. I was there.
I think you talk about all the sitting around. It reminds me when I was on the Cinemax TV show Banshee. I was on that, and that was like Cinemax's like #1 show back in 2000, I guess 2012 or 13, somewhere around there. Anyway, I was on it, and season 2, and I was on the finale. So, but I got there and had no idea what they were looking for, what they wanted me to do, or anything like that. But just like you say, it was the same thing. Like you watch the television show and it's like, oh man, all this excitement,
Mm-hmm.
But then you get there and you're part of the show and you're doing it, and it's a lot of sitting around and of course there you wasn't allowed to have your cell phone. You had to leave your cell phone in the car. So you're sitting there with total strangers, people you don't know, and you go in, okay, action. They put 200 guys in one room, yell action. The stars screw up. They get pissed off. They walk to their trailer, and now we're all like, what do we do?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the way a lot of people look at pro wrestling and think, oh, it's boom, 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 but it's not. When you get the TV, it's like, okay, the show starts at 9 o'clock, but you got to be there at noon. Well,
Yep.
So 9 hours you're there. This guy's over here cutting promos, and you're over here twiddling your thumbs, and I think that, but back in the 80s and 70s, the guys, it was such camaraderie back then. Everybody knew, okay, Corey, for you to be over, I gotta be at my best, and for Chris to be a great promoter, I gotta do what Chris asks of me. So everybody worked together. But now there's a lot of guys don't get the business, and it's like me. It ain't us. It's just me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think now when you get to a show, it's hard to have that camaraderie, because, like, I know for me, I go to a show, there's a couple guys that I'll sit with and I'll talk about, and we'll have. But for the most part, I'm there. I got my cell phone in my hand. I'm on Facebook. I'm texting Chris or something like that. And we're talking about the latest drama with Motley Crue, and I'm so far fetched from the wrestling show, it's not even funny. But I think that's one of another lost art in wrestling, that there's not that much camaraderie, because like you say, everybody's out for themselves. It's not let's work together and put on the best show possible. It's like, let me get out there and show you how good I am. When really,
I'm gonna tell you the best line I heard when I was in FCW. And I don't know if you knew how hard it was for FCW guys to get to TV. So like the Shield and those guys, man, it wasn't easy. But I remember Sam looking at Sam Adonis looking at me and saying, dude, I'm no closer to being WrestleMania than I was in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm just here. I'm tied up. He's like, I'm just tied up so I can't go somewhere else. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Because the money wasn't great.
Right.
Like, dude, the starting money, I don't even think I'm supposed to talk about this. I don't know if I'm going to. Fuck it. The starting money for a developmental deal was $26,000.
Wow.
$500 a week. Plus your taxes come out of that.
Uh-huh.
You're making nothing. Like, when Braun tells that story about, the Kia only having $150 when he went, that's what he made. He probably made that was his start, was $26,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now these guys are coming in making decent money, and they deserve it.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not saying that they don't deserve it, but the guys back then were making nothing.
Now,
the guy who made the most was Titus O'Neil. Titus O'Neil made the most money out of anybody. And they were pushing him to get the TV because they were paying him so much.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like the guys who were like making nothing, they didn't give a shit about them because they were like, they're tied up. If they're good, we got them, whatever. But I mean, you weigh $500 in front of an indie guy. That's pretty big money. But then when you actually get there, it's like, man, this isn't a lot of money at all.
No, it's not much money whenever you realize how expensive stuff is in Tampa. If you're based out of Tampa, or I'm sorry, Orlando. You're based out of Orlando
now. Yeah,
it's very, very expensive there. And then you get $500 a week. You take your taxes out. You make your car payment. You're living in a 1-bedroom shack. And then how you get into the building? Now on that deal, are they paying your travel, or are you paying your travel too?
No. So basically, you're just trying to find like 5 guys and stuff in a car.
Mm.
Oh, and let me add this. Let me add Alfred. Alfred was responsible for advertising the live shows.
Mm-hmm.
So the live events. So you were expected on your off days or your off time to go to Alfred's, get posters, drive to the town, and put the posters up. Man, I'm not saying I'm not for paying dues. I'm cool with that. Like, I'm very cool with paying dues. But to me, that's kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, you get one day off and you have to go and put posters up 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours away. It takes your whole day. So it's like, I get they're trying to condition you for it, but it was bullshit. Like, I don't want to put up fucking posters. I tried to talk Tyler Breeze. I went with me and him and a guy named Baby Blue. He never did anything, but I tried to talk, like, just throw this shit away. they're like, well, who'll come to town and check? I was like, well, he can bring his ass and put him up.
Uh-huh.
If that's his job, tell him to bring his ass and put him up. And like, they're like, dude, you can't. I was like, but cool story. Tyler Breeze changed my tire. So I had a flat tire coming home. So he's like, oh, I got it, man. Yeah, he's Canadian. So he's like a really nice dude.
Yeah.
He's like on the side of the highway changing my tire. And, at the time I'm like, oh, man, that's such a nice dude. And then he goes to be Tyler Breeze,
Wow. It's kind of
I
funny.
think his name is Matthias or Matt. They call him Matt. But Matt at the time was like, dude, like, he ain't got it too. They called him Mike Dalton, I think. That was his name before they called him Tyler Breeze.
Uh-huh.
So he's like on the side of the road changing my tire. Like, man, that's cool. Like, that's a cool little story.
Now,
I had a very eventful 2 weeks. I will not say I did not have a very eventful 2 weeks. It was very eventful. I almost wonder what would have happened if I had stayed,
Right.
I'd have a lot more stuff. Like, I've got a Cena story too, but.
Well, you're on the BENGEBUSTER show. You got to tell the Cena story.
You would tell the Cena story.
Sure.
Okay. So they were doing this Q&A, or say it was like on a Thursday before TV, and Cena came in. I guess Cena had decided he wanted to go to Five Guys and just swing by. The rumor was Cena had a feed to his house that he could see everything that was going on because he always wanted to be on top of it. I mean, that's how you do it. Like, that's how you become him. So he stopped by and did a Q&A, and he made everybody hate me even more. Because I believe Johnny Curtis asked him, like, hey, man, not been Johnny Curtis, but somebody like that. They asked him, like, hey, when we go to TV, how do we get attention? He said, you need to ask Big Man back there. And I said, oh, shit. And Cena's like, they turned and looked at me. I was like, oh, God, everybody hates me. So Cena's like, he has manners. He's like, he can work. He can do all the, the stuff they ask him to do, but he has manners. And I was like, oh, thanks. And then everybody hated me more. So, but I mean, I think it was genuine. He was a super nice dude. Always a super nice dude.
I've heard that about him. And the fact that he's very business oriented, but at the same sense, he's very, very, he also has great manners and very respectful guy, and he respects the business. And I think a lot of people shit on him just because, he's John Cena. He don't wear wrestling boots and he wears, but the guy's got a great body, great looks, and regardless, and I've heard Ric Flair say this, Cena's not the best worker in the business, but that's not his fault because they didn't give him the time to learn. They just put him on the road.
Here's the question though. Is he not the best worker in the business? Because dude, I mean, who's he not worked with? Right. And who's he not went out there with and had matches? I mean, that match with CM Punk, on Punk's last night, dude, they called most of that in the ring because if you listen to Cena, you can hear him call spots because he's so damn loud. They like me, but kayfabe. But he's calling it in the ring. So is he not a great worker? I would say he is. I would too, because I mean, because he wouldn't be in that position if he wasn't. Correct. And speaking of great workers, let's get back to Chris a minute. I know we haven't had Chris on there. Sorry, Chris.
You're fine. We're
good. So Chris, back whenever you were running New Dimension Wrestling and running around with our good friend there in Thomasville, Ken Spence, did Corey ever have the opportunity to come in and work for you guys, or was that before Corey's time? Or
man, wow, Tony, you're really, really, really going. You're turning back the clock here.
I know the answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Corey, were you at the high school level? Were you?
So
we're going back. You're going back 95 here, 96.
Okay, so Stutzy started coming to shows in 96. I started coming. The first show I ever came to was one of your spot shows at the War Memorial Auditorium for the Bats.
All right.
That was the very first show. You brought the ring out on the forklift, sat it down, did the show. Yeah. That was the first show, independent. I think it went to a couple of independent shows, but that's where I got hooked. Like, that's when I was like, what is
right?
What is this? Like, speaking of addiction, that was it. So I started, I went to all the spot shows you did. I sat through those terrible damn baseball games to watch those shows. And, I started just talking to people. I was a bigger kid, so people noticed me, and I sat with Kingfish a lot. And then I started coming to Thomasville and Burlington when you started running those regularly. And you guys even incorporated me in an angle with Brute Shooter and Mike Gunner because I was giving Mike Gunner so much shit. They worked the finish around me, and you threw me out.
No, you were fine. No, you were fine.
No. But the funny part was the security guard wasn't in on it. He's like, "Oh, get the hell out of here! Get to the door."
Oh, Plano said something. The security,
like Plato said, "You're out of here, right?" But the funny thing is, I get to the door, and the lady at the door at the time, it'll come. Is it Misty?
Misty, I would say.
Yeah,
Misty. Yes.
Misty's like, "Don't stop. Just leave him alone. Leave him alone. Just go back. That was a thumbtack match show. I wasn't missing that shit. You know what I mean?
Tony, I hear some chirps in the background over here. You hear that, Tony?
I
hear some breadcrumbs being thrown from the background.
Oh.
Did I bring up a source? I don't know. I didn't. No, I did not say. I didn't even say who.
No, Corey wants nothing to do with it. Oh wait, come on, Corey, Chris. Tony wants to see you.
Now
I hear a lot of popcorn thrown over here on the side.
I didn't say who she was. I just said the lady running the door. It could have been an old lady with the chicken.
I had numerous females that were employees at New Dimension Wrestling.
Hey, but if that's the same Misty that I remember, I know Misty.
Yeah,
I know Misty. She used to work for me as well.
A little crazy.
Was that right?
Well, I
need to start running. Where's she at?
I don't know. I don't know if it's the same Misty. I don't know if it's the same Misty, but I did have a Misty that used to come and work for me when I had my promotion, and she told me, "Hey, I've been in the business. I used to sell tickets for Chris Plano at New Dimension Wrestling. I know how this thing works." I'm like, "Well, you know how it works, then come on up." And as a matter of fact, she valeted for me for about a year. Not me, but she valeted one of my guys.
I love it.
And
look at Chris. Look at Chris's face right now.
And then
I didn't even try to stooge you, brother.
And then the crazy thing is, she and I realized how me and her met. The guy that she valeted for me, he calls me up. He goes, "Tony, I met this chick, right? She works at the mall." And he goes, "I met this chick. She works at the mall, but she told me she used to work for New Dimension Wrestling." I'm like, "New Dimension?" I said, "That's my friend Chris Plano." I said, "What'd she do for Chris?" He goes, "I think she sold tickets." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, then she know." I said, "Well, good. She's smart to the business." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "She wants to be my valet." I'm like, "Oh, I'm fine with that because we don't have any." So my question was, I said, "How's she look though, Kenny?" He goes, "Oh yeah, she's good looking." I'm like, "Okay, great. Bring her down to the next Rock and Jack show, and I'll give her a look."
Ooh,
right?
Good pull, Tony. Rock and Jack's.
So he brings her to the Rock and Jack's building, and as soon as she walks in the door, she's like, "Tony Binge," and I'm like, "Misty." And my friend Kenny's looking at me like, "What the? You guys know each other?" And she's like, "Oh, I've known Tony since we were 13. Remember, you used to set me on the church bus on the way to school." And I'm like, "Okay, we need to stop right there. Kayfabe, but you know what kayfabe means, right?" And she's like, "I know what kayfabe means." And but yeah, so it's funny how all these people are always intertwined.
Dude, I thought she was pretty hot when I was 13.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen her since then, but when I was 13, I thought she was pretty damn hot.
Listen, I got a lot of popcorn thrown over here from the Bob Uecker seats. I mean, this is like classic.
I wish people could see this. Like, this is
you guys got me backed in a corner I'm not getting out of.
Hey, come on. Chris ain't done anything. Hey, listen, Chris ain't done anything wrong, so don't hit him with the popcorn.
Okay, so the only show I ever worked for you, Chris, was Thanksgiving night 2000. That was my first year. That was the only time I ever worked for you. I did the opening match with a fella named Loverboy, and I broke the ring.
That's all right.
Which for that New Dimension ring is pretty normal, right? He's so distracted. He's got so much heat.
I've got some heat over here right now.
I will be taking his place from here on out.
No, we're good. Hey, but I love the angle because you really turned back the clocks when you said Brute Shooter and Mike Gunner. Mike Gunner, man, a little bit about him. He was a built guy, man. He was stacked.
Yeah.
Brute was Brute. Brute was a Boogie guy.
Yeah.
Through and through. Very, very loyal to Boogie. Very loyal to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, but remember Mike Gunner? Mike, I really thought Mike was gonna go somewhere at one point, and then I think he got wrapped up in other things and things like that.
I think it was his attitude that hurt him. Yeah.
He had the look. He had the vibe.
Yeah, because he got his ass kicked by Sione one night because he went in there and told Sione, Barbarian, he's like, we're going to do this, this, and this. And Sione's like, okay, brother, we're going to do all of that, brother. Okay.
Yeah.
And, the story goes, Sione didn't do any of that, which I love him too.
No. Oh, I do too. No. I just worked a show with him like 2 weeks ago.
I thought he retired. Okay.
No, Barb's still around, man. And he remembered me too. He remembered me. He saw me. He goes, "Hey, Tony, you're getting bigger." I said, "Yeah, but I said, but it's not my arms, brother."
Hey, gentlemen, the popcorn throwing has calmed down.
Okay, good.
Moment.
Chris is back.
I'm back.
Chris is back and ready to have.
I used to call that damn New Dimension hotline every week, and Chris would never update that damn thing. It was always the same shit.
Wait a minute, hold on.
And then his website was like that AOL thing, so I'd be on it all the time looking for damn updates. It was always the same shit over and over again.
Right.
So, dude, all of this stuff is so crazy that I'm remembering it.
So, you're telling
that was where my roots are.
My God,
no!
Oh my God!
There it is. Fans,
guys, I'm getting hit with the frying pan over here. Everything with the frying pan. God almighty.
The real heat.
Fans, we're here on the bench.
You heard the name Misty and some other stuff and girls and wrestling and
I've been around a long
went
time.
From town to town, man. We were town to town, just going down. That's all we were doing. Oh, we're good. You got some raised eyebrows over here.
This is the greatest podcast of all time already.
I'm telling you. And
Tony, this is unscripted right now. We're impromptu.
Hey,
we threw the format out the window.
Oh, the format is gone, and right now I just got to tell Chris something.
Yeah. Strap yourself in because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
There it is.
God, I'm strapped in, I think, right now.
Well, yeah, first time fans. We got Chris about to get hit with popcorn and a frying pan. The BengeBuster Show's got more heat than WWE.
SpongeBob. The people can't see SpongeBob is here as well. He hasn't said a word.
No,
he says SpongeBob, but those eyeballs look like tits to me.
Look, I'm not a great artist, okay? I'm not a great artist.
No, I do like it though. I do like it though. It's great. It's great. It's better than like behind mine. I got.
Okay, I paid for it.
In my I'm here in my studio, and in my studio I got a big screen TV that I watch stuff on, and then over here I got a drum kit that I just got.
You haven't even took the tags off that thing, Tony.
No, I just got it last week. I hadn't even really hooked it up yet. The tags are still
energy guide on it.
I hadn't even hooked it up yet.
It costs $36 a year to run 4 hours a day.
The government's giving stimulus checks, and I'm buying TVs with it. I mean, who knows?
Who isn't?
Right? No.
I was buying drugs with mine, but we won't go.
Yeah. Back in the day, I spent mine on other things as well. But anyway, but now getting back on our format, we'll try to get back on our format.
Tony, don't say that because something just came out of whose mouth said, "I know what Chris was buying his stimulus money with," and
oh,
we don't even go there. Boy.
Oh, Chris is getting some good stuff with his stimulus money.
I think we're going R.
I know. Hey, here's the thing. I saw the pictures. I know what Chris spent his stimulus money on. His deck. Not dick, but his deck. No, seriously, guys. Chris sent me a picture last week. He says, "Tony, check out my deck. I've got it redone and everything. It looks good out there."
His microphone is muted, obviously, because no one can hear what's going on. This is so funny. Look at his face.
And then, guys, I wish y'all could see his podcast to see Chris's face. It's like he's like.
This will be the reason the BengeBuster Show will go to video because of this right here.
I'm losing it here. It's the first time I've lost control of my podcast.
Yeah. Who knew that was going to happen with me here?
On your podcast.
Who knew that was going to happen with me here, right?
Oh, man.
Never
Throwing
happened.
the frying pan, the dog at me, and everything. I'm in trouble tonight over here.
Now, look. After getting the popcorn in the frying pan, now Chris has got the dog, so he's good.
This is so ridiculous.
I've lost control.
This has never happened before.
Never. I've never done a Zoom call before.
Don't ever have Brad on your
I know
show.
Tony knows
If you
Buddy.
ever
Tony
touch
does
your
know
show,
Buddy. I
you're
think
done.
Tony, does this guy look familiar?
Oh yeah, I remember Buddy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Look, he's looking at me. That's Chris's dog, fans. By the way, I said Buddy.
All right. He's like, oh God, he just yawned. He goes, I want a little more excitement.
Uh huh. Oh, that's good stuff.
Hey, Tony and Corey, Buddy has seen a good amount of excitement over here. I can tell you that from
I can see Buddy's face. Buddy's having a good time.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Starting to rain, so I'm doing this.
Oh no! Is it raining there?
Yeah, it's starting to rain.
Oh man! Well, let's continue on now.
Yeah.
Now we've had some good laughs. We talked about some stuff.
Man.
Now let's
Yelling, screaming over here. God, Chris is yelling, screaming.
Now let's take it into more in depth. Corey, the one thing that I know we want to touch on. You've been in the wrestling business for a very long time, and as a lot of people know, when you get into show business, whether it be music or wrestling or whatnot, there's always that chance of some type of issue underlying. When I say underlying issue, you get hurt. You get the doctor prescribes you something here and there, and the next thing you know, you're caught in a trap. Corey, tell the Binge Busters listener some of your story as far as that goes.
So the big thing with me is I was an addict from the get-go. Yeah, I had a lot of trauma as a kid. So after stuff that happened, that's when I got addicted to food. That's what made me so big. I got addicted to food, and that was my first real addiction. So did that for years. And then in like 2004, 2005, I don't know if you remember, Tony, I got pretty small. I wasn't tiny. I got to like 320 or so.
Right. I remember that.
I got addicted to ephedra, which is, they basically say it's pretty much the same as amphetamines. So I took that for almost 2 years straight, but that was normal. That was kind of a normal thing. All the big guys were doing because everybody was trying to get small. I won't name any names, but there was a lot of other people doing that. So FDA banned that, so you couldn't find it. Went back to food, right?
Right.
Got big again, put all the weight I'd lost right back on. I think wrestlers and showbiz people are a certain type of people anyway. And a lot of them are very, they're very predisposed to these issues anyway.
Right.
Because what they say is there's type A, type B, and type C personalities. A type A personality is somebody that picks up a drug or a drink and can't put it down. A type B is somebody that can pick it up, take it, drink it, put it down. They're done. And then type C don't want anything to do with it. Like that's basically when you talk about, drugs and alcohol, those are the three types of people. And I think that applies to pretty much anything. Honestly, if you really think about it, that's makes sense, And plus, as pro wrestlers, we have this adrenaline addiction because going to the ring is a rush of adrenaline, and we do it often, and there's really nothing that matches it. So when my problem really got bad was when the food was taken away. I didn't this is shit I'm just realizing this past 2 months, right? I've had to do a lot of like soul searching and stuff like that, but so I'd pretty much decided wrestling not going to go anywhere. It was fun. I was helping book shows in Eden and stuff like that, and kind of wrestle every once in a while, but I'd hurt my back again after coming back. And, was just kind of sitting out. I was like, well, there's no point in carrying all this weight.
Right.
So I went ahead and had Rowan-Y gastric bypass, which is pretty much the most, constrictive one you can have. Like your stomach is literally the size of an egg, right?
Right.
Took away my food. That was my addiction. So what do you do when you lose an addiction? You replace it. So they put me on liquid hydrocodone. Buddy, if you've never had liquid hydrocodone, don't ever try it. Don't ever try it, because it's like you take that sip of it, you're like, man, I feel pretty good. And you take more and you take more. And this was back when, doctors could write refills for it. So the doctor who did my surgery, he's a great doctor, but he doesn't necessarily understand the transition of addiction. Most people who are overweight are obviously addicted to food, at least the morbidly obese who are going to go through the gastric bypass. They're addicted. They have an addiction problem. They don't really, okay, it stopped raining. They don't really talk about that when you have that surgery. So I unknowingly made the transition to opioids. And then we were off and running. It wasn't at first, it was just one of those things where, all right, I take it. It doesn't make me drowsy. It doesn't make me sleepy. When I take it, it gets me up, it makes me more alert. It makes me better. At least I thought. So, I went through the refills, all that stuff, was okay. And then the hernia we had talked about before, I would have had it done. It wasn't even that major an issue, but I was like, man, they'll probably give me more pain medication, if I do it. And they did. And they gave me a lot more. So ran that course with that stuff. And then, I was like, oh man, I got a back problem. So I need to go see a spine specialist and get my back, man, I need something for that. So put me on something else, stayed on that. And then, one day I was like, man, I think I like this stuff a little bit too much. I mean, we're talking, I've probably been taking it off and on for a year and a half at this point. And this would be right around 2014. Yeah, because that's when I made my comeback as a heel. And I was like, I think I like this stuff too much. I would never take it before going to the ring, but I almost needed it after, almost immediately. But I finally was like, hey, we probably need to do something because I have an issue with it. They pulled it out from under me. Instead of, trying to wean me down or take me off it, they said, oh, you're not taking it anymore. You got a problem with it? Oh, you're addicted to it? Pfft, fuck you. I think that doctor ended up getting in a lot of trouble anyway. So went from there. And then when you can't get it, what do? You start buying it on the street. And there's only so much you can get on the street. You can't go up to a drug dealer and say, hey, man, I really like hydrocodone 325s, the Norcos. Can you get me those? Fuck you. I got oxycodone 30, That what you want, you want it or not. You're like, well, shit, I want it, so you get that. And then you're getting on higher and higher grade stuff. And, and then finally the time comes like, man, I can't do this. I have to get off this shit. So I got on methadone. I don't know if you guys know a lot about methadone, but it is probably the most dangerous full antagonist opioid there is. They typically will put you on it for a short period of time and then wean you down and then take you off completely. I went to a clinic where they didn't give a shit about us. They basically, you go in and talk to your counselor, they bullshit you. And you're bullshitting them too, because, by that time you're an addict. You're like, I just want my shit. Give my shit and let me go. But with methadone, it's so dangerous and they don't, they just want your money. So that even got worse. That got to the point where I was buying more methadone on top of what I was already taking. That was dangerous. I got really lucky because I never was into benzos like Xanax or Klonopin and stuff like that. I got pretty lucky. But methadone is the most dangerous, man. It kills people. I mean, you probably hear a story, at least once every few months, how somebody had a methadone bottle, a kid got a hold of it, just took a drop of it, and it killed them. It's that dangerous. It's literally that dangerous. So after a few years of putting up with that shit and just kind of taking it to be numb, it wasn't none that I got high off of or anything. I just wanted to be numb. And I quit wrestling by this point. This was we're talking about the past 4 years. I'd only done a couple matches in the past 4 years. But I had so much going on in my personal life. I didn't even know it. Dude, Tony, like we were talking about earlier, you had everything. You knew what was going on. Dude, I didn't have a fucking clue. I did not know, how dejected my wife was and all that stuff. And then We had a few conversations about it, coming off it, but, always typical addict shit. Just like, oh, you don't understand. Da, 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 da. It's not that simple, whatever. So that was eventually the catalyst for her leaving. Because, I would spend every damn time I had on it,
Right.
I'd get it at the clinic, and then I would buy it from dealers, essentially, because I just wanted to be numb all the time. I had no emotional attachment to anybody, just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was she left. We signed an agreement to separate, and I decided that, through my mom, I will be the first to say, because she was the only one that cared enough to reach out to a place and try to find somewhere for me to go.
Mm-hmm.
So she tried to find somewhere for me to go, like a treatment center. And she reached out, finally found one down in Statesboro, Georgia, a place called Willingway. And, man, I had no intention of like really doing the damn program. I was just like, all right, I'm going to go do the thing, whatever. I do need to add this, that I do have a 5-year-old daughter with my wife. And, I had already agreed to go into treatment because I talked to him. Yeah, I talked to a fella down there. I guess it's okay to talk. His name is Vince, but he works there.
Right.
And he had a very similar story to mine. Like he same thing. He had went through the program,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, dude, I'm on the other side. And he had this damn laugh that's like contagious. I was like, man, how the hell can this guy like live in Kensington in Philadelphia doing all these drugs and go through this program and be happy? Like, how's that possible? Like, that shit's not real,
Mm-hmm.
but something about it, kind of spoke to me. And that's just that light of clarity through the insanity.
Right.
Because that's what addiction is. Addiction's insanity. So he got me in there, and basically my wife had every intention of pulling a fast one on me when we signed our separation agreement, that basically said if I didn't go to treatment, I would give up rights to my daughter.
Mm.
But if I did go, 50-50 custody. So of course I'm going to do it. I mean, she never made me sign it because I'd already agreed to do it, but that was over my head the whole time.
Right.
So finally I get into treatment. I was just like, I'm going to bullshit my way through this, just whatever. I'll give them all the right answers, stuff I've done my whole life, but yeah, I'll be able to handle it, whatever. And just for the record, this is the only place on the East Coast that will detox from methadone. Nobody else will touch it. It's so dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
It takes so long to get out of your system. They even told me day one, like, dude, most of this stuff we have to a science. He's like, but this stuff is, and this is not a science, this is an art. So basically we have to go by you have to talk to us. Whereas everybody else, they have a protocol. They just do a protocol and that's the end of it. So if you can get in there, give them all the right answers, get off the shit, whatever, get out and be fine. But 3 days in, I had started taking the medication they give you to bring you off of methadone. It's called Subutex. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's Suboxone, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar. But if you take it too soon, it can cause a lot of damage. Like it can basically throw you into worse withdrawals and you get really sick. That's what happened. I just took it too early. And man, it was so strange. Like I remember sitting there curled up on the bed, like not moving, just feeling sorry for myself. And then all of a sudden I just had this like, dude, you've been putting your family through this shit for years and they probably feel way worse than you do right now. So that kind of cracked the ceiling for me. Mm-hmm. I even started writing letters, which they're almost incoherent now when you read them back. It's kind of funny. So I started going to groups, listening instead of like doing this shit or doing this shit. Yeah. It's like I took the cotton out of my ears, put it in my mouth, and listened to people. And then you hear these people tell their stories. It's like, dude, we're not that much different. None of us are. Mm-hmm. Our names and our stories might be a little bit different, but when it comes to this, this disease called addiction, we all have it and it affects us a very similar way. some of us are luckier than others. Like for me, we had talked before, like I didn't have DUIs. It didn't, almost lost everything, but right there, but we're talking about, there's people there that lost everything.
Right.
Like they spent their last dollars to be there, and they didn't know where they were going. They didn't know if they had a home to go to. They didn't know, so sitting there listening to these people, and man, it's just like I told you with Al Snow earlier, listen to Al Snow, the light bulb went off for wrestling. The light bulb went off. And, in treatment, they don't really push God on you or anything like that, or spirituality, but they do talk about it, especially because if they're like an AA based program or NA based program, spirituality is a big part of it. But I think at some point, I'm not going on a religious rant or anything like that, but at some point I accepted the fact that I was powerless over this shit. And that if I didn't just throw my hands up and be like, I can't control it, I was going to come right out and go right back to it. Like, it's that simple. But I had that like awakening while I was in there, and man, I started participating in the groups, and this is actually tied into my comeback. So we'll get into that. Started participating in groups, talking about my childhood traumas. Dude, you don't know how hard it is to be in front of a group of men and admit that you were raped by another man when you were 8 years old. Pretty fucking hard. Actually, it's funny that I can talk about it now. It doesn't bother me. But the first time I said, dude, I could barely get it out.
Right. Yeah.
So that's part of my childhood trauma, being raped at 8 years old. That's the first time I've ever publicly talked about it, other than, his meetings. But, that was the catalyst for the food addiction, whatever. But talking about it, it's like, man, this is weird. Like, I'm getting this weird feeling from all of this. And I think it's spirituality. I'd had a disconnect from God and all this, but where we get to the wrestling was I didn't talk about it. I didn't say a word. Nobody knew I was a wrestler. I just told them, oh yeah, I just got my job, which is logistics and shipping and all that stuff's what I do. And we did this really, it was just so silly. But they had us write commercials for like the treatment center we were at. Like, if you were to write a commercial, like, what would you do? And we decided that we were going to do like an attorney one, like, where the attorney's like, hey, you called the one, whatever. So I was like, something told me like, all right, dude, this might be fun. Let's participate a little bit. So wrote a little script up. Of course, I ended up improvising it, but it came off so well. Everybody's like, dude, are you an actor or something? I was like, actually, no, I've been a pro wrestler for the past, 20 years or so. Like, makes so much fucking sense. Like, everything about you, that makes so much fucking sense. I was like, yeah, but I kind of pulled myself away from it. I kind of let other people pull me away from it. And I'm like, man, that's a shame. That's a shame, man. You should really consider going back to it. And I kept hearing this, and every day it would be a different thing where, we were doing something. I would just pull out some random shit because we didn't have television. We didn't have cell phones. Right. We didn't have cable for like 18. I was there 21 days. We didn't have cable for like 18 of the 21 days. So it's like we had to like bond. Right. Like, all of the group pretty much had to bond, and we're still tight. Most of us, we still we communicated like 10 minutes before I went on this. But it's like I would just do silly shit, and it'd be like, dude, it makes so much fucking sense. What are you doing? What are you doing? And then almost another like moment of clarity. It's like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why am I not wrestling? So then I got out on Mother's Day, and I sat at home, and I'm like, man, I really want to wrestle. Like, I just kept telling myself, do I really want to do it? And I'm like, yeah, I really want to do it. So I sent Robbie Stanley a text on, let me get you the date here, because I can't remember the date exactly. It wasn't. So I came home on May 9. Okay. So I came home on May 9, and he was running like right back from the COVID stuff on the 22nd. Yeah, it was the 22nd. So that Friday, I was like, hey, I'm ready to come home. He's like, what? He's like, all right, come to Roxborough. So, dude, I haven't been in the ring, and I've been in the ring a little bit. I had a couple matches. I think I had a match with Bobby Yella, which was very, very nothing. It was terrible. I got so blown up. And then I had a match with George South versus Bobby Fulton, Jackie Fulton, for Henry Dean.
Mm-hmm.
And I got so blown up I could barely walk. But I was like, man, what makes you think you could do this after that? I was like, something just kept telling me. My gut was like, you need to go back. You need to go back. So I just walk in the building, Tony. I grab my bag and I'm walking in the building. It's like, dude, I got this shock, like chill bumps, man. It's like, what the hell have I been doing? Like, why did I walk away from this?
Mm-hmm.
Get in the ring, just start doing a quick little workout because it was pretty late. I got there late for some reason because I'm always late. But just did a quick thing, man. Everything went really well. And then we wrestled that night. And, dude, we almost caused a riot. Like my first night back almost caused a riot, you know? So that was awesome. Then went the next day. I went down for Will Bradshaw and Daniel Moses for Appalachian Championship Wrestling. I wrestled Mike Levy, who Mike Levy's improved a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It was just a simple, nothing to it. It was just a simple little match, but it went really well. It's like, man, can I do something with this still? Like, I'm only 36. I think everybody thinks I'm 50. So then that led to the match with Bobby Yella this past Saturday, and it was so good and it got such a good reception. Like, man, maybe there's something here, I don't know. But I've never applied myself. That's just a straight fact. Like, even for everybody that thinks I'm really good, thank you. But I was really good without applying myself. Like, it was just natural. Like, it wasn't because I got up and went to the gym or that shit. I would pretend like I, was putting in work. I wasn't putting in work. I wasn't doing shit. Like, I'd show up.
Yeah.
I guess you'd say I was naturally talented, and that's what I've based most of my career on. But at this point, man, it's just like I'm really curious with, we going back to the opening, full circle.
Right.
With the scene really changing, like, what can I do with it? Because I think I could do a hell of a lot with it if I actually apply myself for once. I don't know. I mean, I got to WWE once. I don't want to do that again, but I would like to. Impact is kind of the goal for me because I think Impact is a good place. I think they have a lot of good workers, good talent. I think they're very underrated. So that's kind of the goal. God, fuck, I'm putting that out in the stratosphere. Everybody, my goal is Impact. If I don't make it, it's not a big deal, but it's not going to be because I didn't try.
Right.
I'm going to try. Like, I'm going to actually implement. That's why I told you I was up at 3:30 this morning to go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I was never one of those people. Like, I mean, I would go to the gym and work out, but I just did it because I thought I was supposed to. That was
right.
It. But man, it's like I have a whole different mentality towards everything. Coming out of treatment, dude, it really changed the way I look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I thought everybody owed me something. Kind of like we had talked before. I was like, I'm me. You have it. I was like, nah, man. Thank you for having me. My gratitude is huge. I'm very, very thankful for everything that I do have, even though I lost a lot. I'm thankful for what I have, and I'm thankful for any opportunity now because nobody owes me a thing. Nobody owes me a spot. Robbie Stanley and JM, they don't owe me a spot. Nobody owes me shit. What did I do? You know what I mean? Like, if I did anything for them, it was purely by accident. It's like a lot of people come and tell me, hey, you helped me. You helped me. I'm like, dude, I probably did it so you'd put me over. So one day you'd be like, oh, man, Corey helped me with this. Like, dude, at the time, being so selfish and self-centered, it's still there. That doesn't go away. But if you're aware of it, you can use it to your advantage.
Right.
At least I think, but there's so many people coming like, hey, dude, you helped me big time with this. I'll even drop Chase Dakota's name. He's been out of the business for a while because of the back issue he had from a job thing. He's like, dude, you helped me. I was like, I mean, I appreciate you saying that, but I probably just did it so you'd put me over. That's it. I probably just did it so you'd be like, oh, Corey's such a nice guy. That's probably the only reason I did it. And like Donnie Dollars, I was tag partners with him forever.
Mm-hmm.
In Fatback, and it's like, yeah, I helped you, but I only helped you because you were my tag partner. You know, and sometimes it's hard to admit that. Like, it's hard to tell people, like, yeah, man, I helped you, but I didn't do it for you. I did it for me. I did it so you go back and say, oh, Corey, man, Corey's a great guy. Corey wasn't a great guy. No, fuck no. Terrible person. You know, I like to think, man, lot to digest there. Sorry. You know, I like to think there is good in me. And I think I did some good, but any good I did was just circumstantial. Because, you know, when you have this disease called addiction, you're always going to look out for yourself first, and you're going to find a way to feed that addiction. Mm-hmm. Whether it's attention, you know, a lot of people do wrestling, of course. Like I said, we're wired differently. Mm-hmm. So most of us are probably addicts and we don't even know it. You know, most wrestlers are probably addicts. Most wrestlers probably are addicts, and just won't admit it. But it's something, you know, so everybody has something that at least what I've seen, and they won't admit it. Me, I'm very open about it, like probably too open considering I'm going through a divorce.
Hey, I've been there. I know.
Hopefully it will not be used against me, because, you know, I hope in time people do realize, especially my ex-wife or soon to be ex-wife. I hope she realizes it's not the same person. The same person you left is dead. Mm-hmm. I made that comment, and I think people took it the wrong way. I was like, he's dead. He died. Yeah. The person here is not the same person. And the only way to do that is to, you know, come on your podcast and talk about it. Mm-hmm. Because if I don't talk about it, it'll get boil back up, right, and it might boil back over, and I might jump right back into it. But, you know, as of right now, I'm 41 days clean.
Very good.
41 days clean, I believe it is. So I'm pretty lucky. You know, like I said, I never mixed my stuff. Mm-hmm. I was always just a straight opioid person most of the time, or food, but opioids. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm lucky I'm not dead. I should be.
Right.
And, you know, we talk about second chances a lot of times, and I think people just say it like, oh, I've been given a second chance. I've been given a fucking second chance.
Yeah.
Like I should be in jail, or for some of the shit I've done, or, you know, I should be dead, because mm-hmm. There's probably times I took enough methadone to kill a horse. Mm-hmm. It didn't, you know, it should have.
Right.
But yeah, a second chance, man. That's what I'm all about, second chances. But I also want to let people know, man, like there's people out there that understand you, mm-hmm. Especially in this business. I understand completely. And, you know, Tony, we had talked, you understand too.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to talk about it and for people to hear it. That's what I want people. I want people to hear what I'm saying, because it's not easy for me to talk about this. It's not easy at all.
Right. And I'm very happy that you chose my platform, my podcast, to come on and
I know showed you about a year ago, so I felt like I owed you.
No, I understand. I mean, things happen, you know, and you had
things happen. I got fucked up and sat in my chair and didn't want to do the show.
Right.
I had a damn panic attack right before I was supposed to call you, and then disappeared.
Yeah. I knew. I mean, I've known you for so many years. When we were supposed to do that show, and then I didn't hear from you, I'm like, well, something's got to be going on. I mean, mm-hmm. either he must have forgot, or but in my mind, something said he's got some personal issues that he's working on. I'm going to wait for him to contact me, and we'll go from there. Now, one thing I want to talk about to you, I'm going to give you some advice from me, and I'm going to give you advice. It ain't really advice. It's just something to put in your mind. Mm-hmm. In 2001, it was a crazy time in my life. I from about 96 to 2001, my life at the time, I'm in my 20s, and in my mind, I owned a wrestling ring, and I had a nice little building that I kept my ring in, and we trained, and I done a show every weekend. I was on the road. I was gone, and I was married, and I was about to become a father for the first time. So I had all this stress in my life, and you talk about addiction. My addiction then, and I haven't really discussed this ever, but I think now is a good time to kind of put it in there, because when I say this, I'm going to share with you the advice that was given to me, and hopefully you can do like me and use it to give yourself goals and reach those goals. So when I got my ring and I'm going to do all these shows, and in my mind, I've made it, even though I'm not in WWE, I'm not in WCW, but I have at 26 years old, I own my own wrestling company. It wasn't as over as Chris's NDW, but I was having a good time with it. But it was my catalyst. It was my way of doing my addiction and getting away from my wife and doing the things that I shouldn't have been doing, but I was doing because my idol was Ric Flair, and if Ric Flair was seeing millions of women, then I need to do the same thing. And I would do that. I got the show this weekend, but I wasn't booked. I was at day's end with whoever, right? And but you would think, knowing that I'm about to have a child, that my whole world, I'd be looking at something totally differently than I was, but I wasn't. I was doing bad things, which caused my divorce. And I remember making the phone call to Jimmy Valiant. He was booked to wrestle for me in 2001. At Rockin' Jack's, a little bar in High Point.
Oh yeah.
And it seemed like everything happened that weekend that just put me on the right path. So Rockin' Jack's got shut down. The ATF came in because they had poker machines or whatever the case was, but they got shut down. So I had nowhere to run a show, but Boogie's at my house. The show's on Saturday, and the bar gets shut down Thursday, and Boogie's at Big Lots promoting my show. Right?
He ain't going nowhere. You're paying him.
Right. What am I going to do, right? So I end up, I found this little place out in Silver Valley, of all places, out in the boondocks. Was able to do a show and draw 20 people, but those 20 people, I had enough money to pay part of Boogie, but I had to pull out my savings account. I paid Boogie. And then about a week later, my marriage fell apart. And I remember making the phone call. I said, okay, the only thing I could do right now is I gotta sell my wrestling ring. I mean, I got it because I need that money. So I called Boogie. I said, Boogie, brother, I need to sell my ring. Oh, brother, we just had a show Saturday. What's going on? Well, I'm going through a divorce. Oh, brother, I'm so sorry. And he goes, well, hopefully it'll work out. I'm like, yeah, I hope so. So 6 months go by. We go to marriage counseling, and then she decides that she wants to be done and we're going to be over. But here's the advice Boogie gave me, and he was so true. I called him on the phone, tears, crying like a 2-year-old baby that just got, whatever. And I said, Boogie, brother, I said, I don't know what to do. I've lost everything I have. I become a father in August, and now here it is December, and we're split up. And I've had some of my business. I've lost my kid. I don't know what else I'm gonna do. He tells me, you ain't lost your kid as long as you're in that child's life. Now, you ain't gotta be in that woman's life, but as long as you're a man and you take care of that little girl, because that little girl, he told me, he said, that little girl didn't ask to be brought here. She's your responsibility. For the next 18 years, she's yours. He said, doesn't matter what you got to do. If you got to work 3 jobs, 4 jobs, or whatever, you make it happen. He said, Tony, I know you're the guy that's going to do that. He said, but don't worry about your house, your cars, or your bank account, because all that's replaceable.
Yeah.
But your child's not.
Mm-hmm.
He said, so I'm going to tell you. He said, this I'm going to tell you. He said, it may not be today. It may not be 5 years from now. It might be 10 years. He said, but what you've lost is nothing compared to what you're going to have.
Yeah.
And at the time when we was married, I was early. I had bought a mobile home, and we were leasing the land, but we owned the house. And the house was, I think the price we paid for that mobile home, because it was decked out and had everything, I think it was $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
$50,000. And I'm not bragging, and I'm not putting this out here. I just want to give you an example. 18 years later, now I no longer live in Silver Valley. I now live outskirts of Charlotte, and I live in almost a $300,000 home.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't resonate with me because I was kind of like, oh, I got all this stuff and I'm excited. But then about 2 years ago, before COVID hit, I was on a show with Boogie, and it's like it just hit me what that man told me 20 some years ago. And I walked over to him and I had tears in my eyes. And he's like, brother, you okay? I'm like, Boogie, I just got to tell you thank you. He said, thank for what? Our match? I said, no. I said, 20 years ago, you told me, right. I said, 20 years ago, you told me when I remember I made that phone call to you and I was crying and I told you I lost everything I had and you told me, Tony, and he goes, yeah. And I said, hey, I'm doing better now than I did before. And he gave me a big, like a heartfelt hug. You know, it wasn't just like, oh brother, you know, like a wrestler's hug. It was like a heartfelt friendship hug. And he said, he goes, and my daughter was with me. And he goes, and I see that you did what I told you to do because she's here with you. So that lets me know that you were a good father. You did your part for her. He said, and just like I said, he said, man, he goes, if you can do it one time, you can do it 10 times. He said, everything is irreplaceable except for your family. He said, so keep that in mind. You might be thinking you're losing your house, your car, your bank account, but you'll get it back and it'll be double or maybe triple what you had. And he was right. I mean, he was right. So just keep that in the back of your mind as you're going through life. Make sure that your daughter is your number one priority, and everything else is going to fall into place. And man, you'll look back and you'll go, Tony, man, you were right.
Right. Well, it's interesting enough that you bring that up. They tell in treatment it's a little bit different, but they say your number one priority every day should be your sobriety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because anything you put above your sobriety, you're going to lose.
Right. Yeah.
So if you put the house, the car, and all that above your sobriety, you're going to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
And they even, your family, if you put that above it, you're going to lose it. But if your sobriety is number one, everything else is going to fall in place and get better. And truthfully, everything has I guess some decent advice that was very similar to what you said. My boss today, he's been through a few divorces, and he said, Corey, you're thinking short term. He's like, right now, everything is now, short term. This doesn't have anything to do with my addiction. This is just good advice. And he said, look, do what's best for your daughter. Okay. 5, 10, 15 years. He's like, it's not going to matter. As long as you do by her, everything's going to work out. But he also had another good piece of advice, which was pretty funny. I'm going to share it with you. Steve will appreciate this. He said, why are you worried about your relationship with your ex-wife? Why are you worried about it? She's your ex-wife. He's like, the next woman or the next wife, they're going to dictate your relationship with her anyway. And guess what? There probably won't be one. So he's like, so just be cordial, do what's best for your daughter, do the co-parenting thing, but don't worry about all the other shit, because man, I walked into like a ton of stuff and I took it really well, but I've stewed a lot. Like, I've learned to let my past go. Yeah. But it's like this I'm stuck in. And when he told me that, man, it made so much sense to me. It's like, man, he's right. Like, why am I worried about having a friendship, with her? Like, we'll just do the co-parenting thing. We'll do the right thing. And because the next wife isn't going to be like, what the fuck are you doing talking to her?
I was about to say that.
What I mean? Like, they're going to dictate the relationship. And then of course you're going to do what they want you to do. So why build something that's not going to last? So why even worry about it? So,
right. Exactly. Yeah. And that's like one of the things that
Plato knows all about that. You know what I mean? But like,
Plano is the man.
I don't know if I'm the man. I've never been married, and I don't have any kids, none that I'm aware of. So I don't.
All right. Good job, buddy.
I don't know if I'm the man or not for that. I've thrown a few women through the ring in the past. So I'll say that, through the ringers. We're good.
Yeah, I think we all have at some point.
Some are still learning.
It's
get some daggers back. A couple back.
I just like getting Chris in trouble. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I'm in trouble. No, I'm in trouble now. We're good. I've been in trouble for about the last hour, I think.
But yeah, that's just one of the things that you just have to. You definitely got to prioritize it, and but I've known you long enough. I know that you're going to do it. And like, you know, you talk about being friends with your ex-wife. I'll tell you firsthand, my daughter is 19. She'll be 20. Her mother and I split up when she was like 6 months old.
Mm-hmm.
Never reconciled. That was it. Once I was out of the house, it was done. But all the stuff that I did wrong, like when we split up, it wasn't because she knew about me naching. We split up because she just was we were completely different people to begin with.
Right.
I was a traveling salesman and I was never home. And then when I'd come home on the weekends, now I'm off to go wrestle. At least that's what she thought. So we never had time together. We grew apart. So in her mind, it wasn't that Tony did something wrong. It's just we grew apart.
Right.
It wasn't till once the marriage was over, and then she started like, oh, she and I made a mistake, one of the many mistakes. But at the time, everything we owned was kind of like, I mean, our house was in both of our names, our cars was in both of our names, but like cell phone bill, the light bill, all that was in her name only. And at the time, I didn't think about phone records, you know, checking the phone records, see who these people was. And then once she starts calling, what's all these numbers, you know? Because once we split up, I got my own cell phone, you know, and she had that one shut off. And then she gets this final bill, and it's crazy. And she's like, what are all these numbers, you know? And, of course, she wouldn't have thought about that, but she had a friend that was like, you should check these numbers and see what and then, you know how they work. So once that happened, it was like, Tony, who's this girl? Who's that? I was like, what are you talking about? And in my mind, I'm going, how does she know who that is? You know, I was like, I don't know who those are. I said, probably people that wanted to buy a wrestling ticket, you know. Well, this one girl told me you and her used to go to the Days Inn in Thomasville like every weekend, and it was over with, you know. And about that time, because of what I'd done, there was no way that she and I would ever be friends. Even to this day, 20 years later, you know, those 18 years of me paying child support was the worst 18 years of my life. Not because of my daughter, but because her mother thought, because I made mistakes, that she had to, you know, keep whipping me, you know, and she had to spank me, you know, at some point and show me, you know, she's in control, not me. And it was bad. And like, I tried to be friends with her, but it's impossible. Like once the lines cross, or now I've seen some couples where they get divorced and they marry, but they all four have these parties for their kids and everybody's friends.
Yeah.
I don't know how in the hell they do it, because I've never been able to do that, you know. Yeah. And probably never will. Now, my wife I'm with now, hopefully that never happens. But if it did, I can tell you right now, she and I would definitely not be friends, because we butt heads now. She's a Yankee and I'm a Southerner, and we already. So if we ever split, it would be, you know, it'd be the Clampetts versus the McCoys, you know, 2020 for sure. But now back to kind of wind down this podcast, the redemption now. You know, you fought through everything. You've been clean now, and now you're back home, back in the ring where you belong.
Yep.
And I remember years ago, I'm gonna test you, see if you remember this.
Okay.
But you made a post on Facebook, and you said, if I ever get back in the ring, these are some of the guys I want to work with.
Yeah.
And I was on that list.
Yes, you were.
I remember that.
Yes, you were.
And I'm excited that you're back. And so hopefully at some point we can either be a tag team, which would be great, or work against each other. But I hope now we get to do that. At least before I retire and get old.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean about blowing up, because like now that happens to me a lot. Like sometimes I get in the ring and I'm ready to go, and I go in there and I do it and everything's good. Yeah. And other times I get in there and I'm like, I'll take a hip toss and it's like the gas is gone, and I'm like, what happened? You know,
I'll say amazingly enough, like you know, this little comeback. I've been so surprised at like how good my wind was. Like I've got a little tired, you know, but man, the match with Yella really, whenever they put it up, they'll put it up on I think it's called IWTV, Internet Wrestling Television. You stream it. It's like $9.99 a month, but I think they got free trials and whatnot.
Yeah.
But eventually down the line, they're going to put that match up, and I've actually watched like a fan version of it. And I told Brad Stutzy, I was like, Stutzy, that's the old me. Like that's the old me. Like that's not like when I was a heel. Yeah, I love being a heel. I want to be Tully Blanchard, but you know that wasn't me. Even though I did a good job, that wasn't me. It's like I didn't know who I was, and you know that was all under the veil of addiction. I didn't know who I was. Right. And getting back in the ring and going out there and doing it, I'm finding who I am again. And I really like it. Like, it's been amazing. Like, that match was an amazing experience because, hey, Bobby Yella has gotten so damn good. Oh, yeah. Like, he's gotten so damn good. And a lot of people don't know, dude, he knew nothing. Right. Yeah. And for some reason, he's another one of those guys. He credits me. And I've got to give him his due, man. He actually is probably the reason I came back because I was still on the fence about it. I was like, I don't know, man. But he's like, you got to come back. He's like, these people need you. These kids need you, you know. Like, they need people like you. They're like, man, Yella. It's like, all right, I'll do it. I was like, all right, can I work you? And, he did so well, dude. I even told him, like, I looked at him while he was selling on the ramp after the match. I looked at him and said, you're a fucking great worker. Like, I did it right in front of the camera. I just said, you're a fucking great worker. You need to know it. He's great at what he does. And, in the ring, he was solid. Like, I was so surprised at how good he was. But on top of that, DW, Damian Wayne, sends me, I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this, but he sends me a message. He's like, man, there's not many guys like us left. And he's like, I'm so glad to see you back. I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember. I could probably read the whole thing. But right. He's like, there's not many guys like us left. I'm glad you're back because these kids need you. I'm like, they need me? Like, who needs me? Like, I'm just a fuck up. I've had some clarity and I'm finding myself, but are you telling me I can help other people, which is part of recovery, is helping other people. Now, it might not necessarily be helping other alcoholics or addicts, but I'm helping people. Shit, I got my best friend back in front of a crowd for the first time. And I mean, he booked CWF for a long time, but Brad did not really get in front of a crowd. Like, it's been years to do that fatback. That we did not plan that like that. You would think that took months and months of planning to do like a fatback reunion, a fatback enterprise reunion with me and him. I hope nobody really took offense to like not including Donnie and Nick or Maddie, but man, he's always said I was the captain. Right. It was always me and him. Like me and him, like I'm the captain, he's the manager. It was us. Yeah. He was so shocked because he was nervous. He's like, man, ain't nobody gonna want to see me. They don't. I mean, he got to start second guessing himself. And I said, Brad, my Patterson instincts are going crazy on this, man. I was like, I think this is gonna work. I was like, I didn't even say a thing. I told him I know. And I'm sitting there telling him all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, Corey Edsel would have never said shit like this before. Right. Yeah. Like, I would have just walked off and ignored him and let him, but I'm sitting there giving my best friend Brad a pep talk when it was him, years ago, giving me the pep talk. Right. And I'm sitting in the locker room and just talking with Levi and Damian Wayne and those guys. It was so cool. But back to a DW, he's like, these kids need you. And I don't think I understand yet, but I hear it a lot. Like, he sends several people to be like, man, these kids don't get it. They need to get in there with you and work. So I guess that's what I'm here for. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But yeah, we're definitely that match.
Yeah.
dude, we're gonna make that happen.
Yeah.
We'll whatever.
And I'll tell you, I put this over on this podcast a lot, but I do a lot of work with NAWA out of Western
You
North
got
Carolina.
a lot of good guys I've seen.
Yes.
What is his name? Adam James.
Adam James, yes,
Adam James is a very solid worker. One of the few shows I did in the past 4 years was with him, and he worked some green as grass kid. It was fine, but that was one of those nights me and Trent Wild just went out there and bullshit and got over.
Yeah.
And he was very nice, very nice. But you could tell he's got a passion for it. He can work,
yeah,
especially if you
does.
follow him on Facebook.
I'll tell you a funny quick story about he and I. One time he and I were in a 6-man against each other. And you know me, working me is like working Jimmy Valley. I'm very light, very light.
Yep.
And but Adam's used to feeling stuff, and I do it so good you don't feel. Yep. And I gave him a double axe handle, and he no sells it, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's he doing to me? He knows this is the finish, and I come back and give him another one, and I pop him on the second one, and then he sells it, but after the match, we get back to the dressing room, he's like, brother, you could lay it in there. I'm like, that's not me. I don't lay it in there. I said, I'm very light. He goes, man, he said, I didn't even feel it. He goes, but I go back and look at it on tape. It looks like you killed me. I'm sorry I didn't sell the first one. I was like, no. I said to me it looked good because it's like I hit you with the first one. Oh, okay, that one didn't work. Let me do it a second time, and it worked. And it worked. He said, yeah, okay, whatever, Tony. But yeah, he's a solid guy. But the great thing, and I'm not just putting over NAW because I work there a lot, but the promoter, the owner, Jason Freeman, heck of a guy. Known him since he was 15 years old. When I first broke into the business, he was young, 15 years old, refereeing, and now he's a promoter. Bless you.
Sorry, COVID. No.
But
I'm vaccinated. I guess.
but now he's a promoter, and like the stuff they do is old school stuff. They're running angles around everybody, and it's very fun and enjoyable. So, anytime you're off and you want to get in the car with me and ride up, man, you're more than welcome to.
Well, you let me know. I'll be there.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it.
For sure.
Chris, as we wind this podcast down, man.
Chris in the car, too. Let's get him in the car and get him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here, I see it right now. You and I are tag team, and Chris is our manager.
Yep.
That's going to be it right there.
Hey, I've seen Chris Chris manage before, man. It's pretty good, man. It's a lot of fun. So I think he still got it in there.
Oh, Chris.
No, I don't think so. The main thing that I did, not today. No. Yeah. No, not today. No one would understand. They want to see something different than back in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s.
Hey, Chris, tradition's coming back, man.
Every 7 years, brother. Every 7 years. It's a cycle.
Coming back. It's coming back.
Every 7 years.
I'll keep that.
It's all different faces. You can recycle anything. You can every 7 years.
I'll keep that in mind.
That's it. Well,
hey, but this has been. Man, Corey, this has been really enlightening. I just want to tell you, I mean, I learned a lot tonight, man. I learned a lot I didn't even know. I really appreciate you opening up because for a lot of people, it's not easy to open up. Some harder than others, some easier than others. For you, it seems very easy, very fluid. And hey, like I said, you seem like you came from the heart as well. And not only heart, but real life stuff. And, I appreciate it. And you brought a lot to the show this evening and some good food for thought for some, not only in the ring, but also outside of the ring as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And I definitely see a part 2 of this podcast for sure. The most entertaining.
We could do a part 2 without any any format.
I've never in my life lost control of my podcast. But we did it. But it was all fun. I enjoyed it, and like I said, I appreciate everybody listening in, downloading our podcast on your favorite podcast platform where the podcast is worldwide. Last week we had new listeners in Japan, so my podcast is getting over. As Randolph Hedrick used to say, it's over, damn it, from the Roosies.
Yep.
But seriously though, this was definitely a good time, and I thank everybody, and Corey, I can't wait to see what the future holds for you, and Chris, you too, man. I'm going to see you probably the next week or something. We'll get together and do another show and rock it out.
No, absolutely ready to rock and roll, and we'll see what comes at us here. But Corey, thank you, and love to have you back on anytime. No invitation needed.
Anytime. Hey, if you just need somebody to come in and bullshit about Starcade 84 or a random show, you just give me 3 hours notice. Let me go back and watch it. I can give you some material.
I think when we get off the air, I'm going to have Starcade 21 here. It'll be a male versus female match. It wouldn't be my first.
It's going to be the night of the door walkers, not the skywalkers, just the door walkers.
I love it, night of the door walkers. That's great. All right, guys. Well, for Chris and Corey and Tony, we'll see you guys next week on the Binge Buster Show.
Thank you for listening to the Binge Buster Show. Make sure you like us on Facebook and download us on your favorite podcast platform.